Hello, it is Thursday the 8th of January 2026. My name is Katie and we are going to do a brief summary of yesterday's Prime Minister's questions. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer opened the first PMQs of 2026 with a seasonal nod, wishing MPs a belated Happy Christmas. He moved quickly to domestic policy, highlighting his visit to Reading and the first freeze in rail fares for 30 years. He linked that to wider cost of living measures such as £150 off energy bills, expanded breakfast clubs for kids, and a rise in the minimum wage. "We are turning the corner," he told MPs. But the centrepiece of his opening statement was foreign policy. Starmer briefed the House on yesterday's meeting in Paris with European and American allies and President Zelensky. He said real progress had been made on security guarantees for Ukraine, including a declaration of intent with France and Ukraine on the potential deployment of forces after a peace deal. Any deployment, he insisted, would be put to a parliament for a vote. The most heated exchanges came from the leader of the opposition, Kemi Badenoch. She accused the Prime Minister of avoiding scrutiny by failing to make a full statement on the Ukraine agreement. She said Starmer was scared of being questioned and would skip PMQs if he could. She pressed him on Greenland, calling it fundamental to NATO's future, and demanded he call an urgent meeting of NATO leaders. Starmer pushed back, saying that she had not used her questions to ask about Ukraine. He defended his record on NATO, calling it the most effective military alliance in history, and accused Badenoch of previously suggesting he should have skipped a NATO summit to attend PMQs. Badenoch pressed again, saying he had still not spoken to President Trump after the US operation in Venezuela, and demanding details on troop numbers and whether they would have a combat role. Starmer clarified that deployment would only occur after a ceasefire for deterrence and support operations, and only with a legal instrument debated and voted on by MPs. He said he has spoken to President Trump twice over Christmas and that the UK and US were fully aligned on security guarantees. Badenoch then turned to defence spending, accusing the Prime Minister of offering only ambition rather than commitment on reaching 3% of GDP. She warned that any breach of a peace deal could put the UK in direct conflict with Russia. She also attacked Labour's Northern Ireland Troubles Bill, citing warnings from former SAS commanders and retired generals that it would wreck special forces and threaten national security. Starmer dismissed her attack as embarrassing, pointing to Ben Wallace's comments that the Conservatives had hollowed out the armed forces. He accused the opposition of hypocrisy, saying their shadow Attorney General was advising Roman Abramovich while Labour sought to direct Chelsea FC funds to Ukraine. On Northern Ireland, Starmer said the Conservatives had previously granted immunity to IRA terrorists and that Labour's bill would create a fair, transparent process with protections for veterans. Liberal Democrat leader Ed Davey challenged the Prime Minister over Venezuela, citing international lawyer Jeffrey Robertson Casey, who said President Trump's actions were illegal and a breach of the UN Charter. Starmer said Maduro was not a legitimate president and that the benchmark for all actions was international law, but that it was for the US to justify its actions. Davey further pressed, warning that any attack on Greenland could end NATO. He urged faster defence spending and new alliances. Starmer said Greenland's future was solely for Greenland and Denmark, and warned against being pushed to choose between Europe and the US. He said a just and lasting peace in Ukraine depended on security guarantees backed by the United States. Claire Hanna described Northern Ireland as a political Hotel California trapped in dysfunction. She called for a structured conversation on reform. Starmer said the government was open to proposals that could command consensus. DUP MP Gavin Robinson raised concerns that the Troubles Bill's protections were procedural and applied equally to terrorists. He asked for confirmation of amendments to protect veterans. Starmer said the bill had been shaped with veterans in mind and that MPs would see the results of consultations at committee stage. Lib Dem Sarah Olney called for a public health campaign on suicide prevention. Starmer highlighted the Men's Health Strategy, £3.5 million in prevention programmes and 7,000 new mental health workers. Labour's Bill Esterson welcomed the chickenpox vaccine rollout and criticised Reform's stance on vaccines. Starmer said Labour had delivered 5 million extra appointments and removed 300,000 people from waiting lists, warning that Reform-run councils were chaotic. Conservative Peter Bedford urged the Prime Minister to reset his economic policies. Starmer pointed to falling inflation, interest rate cuts, and IMF growth forecasts. Conservative Alison Griffiths highlighted pollution from the Baltic Clipper cargo spill. Starmer praised volunteers and confirmed liability rests with the polluter. Lib Dem Angus MacDonald warned of youth emigration and rural depopulation in the Highlands. Starmer pointed to investment in apprenticeships and criticised the Scottish National Party for blocking industrial projects. Labour's Pam Cox called for reform of the criminal justice system to tackle victim waiting lists. Starmer agreed, saying too many victims wait too long or never see justice. The session ended with the presentation of the Deprivation of Citizenship / Promotion of Terrorism or Violence Bill, requiring the Home Secretary to strip citizenship from individuals convicted of national security offences who later promote terrorism or violence. The bill will return on the 16th of January. That's a very brief summary of what happened in Prime Minister's questions yesterday. Apologies for the rather long Christmas break. I have kept up with my writing though over on the Substack. Should you wish to go and subscribe, it is free. If you want to pay for a subscription, feel free. I'm not going to say no, but it is free to read. I'd appreciate your support over there. And here, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. But anywho, thanks for listening. We are back. Hopefully, I will behave myself and actually, do my show. But otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Don't miss the next bulletin. Subscribe, like, and comment today. No bias, no bullshit, just straight reporting.